Well, then let's get going. We do have a lot to cover today, a number of guests to present. Usually we go around the table. I'm going to postpone that until a little bit later, hopefully when we've got a little bit of time. My name is Rick Kent. I'm the co-chair of the Economic Development and Government Relations Committee for the Chamber of Commerce. And we are going to have Adam, who is our principal planner for the city of Morgan Hill, continue a presentation that he started last time, but got cut short due to everybody's power going out. So Adam, I'll give you the floor.
All right, thank you. Adam Paszkowski, Principal Planner with the city. We're starting a new initiative as I share my screen. There we go. And so a new initiative called Healthy Neighborhoods for All. So this is proposed to be as incorporated into one of the elements or as a new element within our general plan. So the reason why we're doing this is that there was a Senate Bill 1000, that was passed a couple of years ago that requires us to do certain work. This is to address pollution and other hazards that are disproportionately affecting low-income communities and communities of color. We must identify disadvantaged communities. Within this project, we're calling it, instead of calling it disadvantaged communities, we're calling it communities of concern. That's the term that we're going with. So this is a bill that's required throughout California, all the cities and counties. And there's 8 different topics that we have to address. So we have to address can we reduce pollution exposure to the low income and communities of color? How can we promote public facilities where these communities are, where these disadvantaged communities are located within the city? How can we promote food access to them, promote safe or sanitary homes? Basically, how can we reduce substandard homes within that community? And then also, how can we promote physical activity and reduce unique or any compounded health risks that community or neighborhood is facing? And how can we promote and engage in civic engagement within that area? How can we have them come to meetings? How can we make it less difficult for them to attend? And then also just prioritize whatever needs that the community of concern identifies to the city. So, as I mentioned, we're calling this a Healthy Neighborhoods for All. This is kind of an extension or an arm of Elevate Morgan Hill. And so I had the 3 pillars there where it's create a sense of belonging, connect residents to jobs, and connect residents to housing resources for the Hispanic and low-income communities. So it's through this process, we identified our own separate 3 kind of pillars. So we're focused on increasing, enhancing, and addressing different criteria within these neighborhoods that build off of those 8 criteria based on the Senate bill. So Healthy Neighborhoods for All, as I mentioned, is going to be a plan that's going to be part of the for the future for Morgan Hill's 2035 general plan. It's to ensure that everyone has the right to clean air, water, and a healthy environment, and that no group or any certain groups are left behind or have more pollution risks than others within the community, within Morgan Hill. And really to hear from them. We're going out to the communities to have them have a say in this plan on what the policies or what really is affecting them or what do they need help with. So within the next week or week and a half, I will be having a background review report published to our website for everyone to view, calling it a background review report. So it's a data report with a lot of maps. I'm sharing several maps on this presentation. Throughout that report, we divided everything up by census tract because that was the easiest way to get information from the census on different criteria or different indicators within neighborhoods. And so with the way how Morgan Hill is and extends, and we're not a perfect square or anything like that, there's lots of census tracts that extend beyond the city limits. So you can see in here where the golf course is, it extends way out into the county, as well as on the the west side where it extends out further in the county. The census doesn't divvy up information on city boundaries, so we're using these census tracts. And then also, as part of this whole process, we have to submit our report or our healthy neighborhoods for all element to the state for review. And they also indicate with other cities that have done this work already that they have to go beyond their city limits because there may be people within the county area that uses facilities within Morgan Hill. We know that that's true in our area. People and within the county come shop within Morgan Hill, use our services, and so on. So this map shows the median household income for per census tract. And there's really, I just want to point out 3 census tracts. This one has the lowest income with an average of less than $100,000 for a household income. And then these 2 here, basically the downtown to the city limits. And then this area is done when the Ross shopping center is here and extended down to Nob Hill. I guess that further down. And then so those 3 census tracts also relate with our mostly Hispanic population. So with those 3 census tracts, more than 50% of the population within these 3 census tracts are Hispanic households. I also looked at income inequality. And so with that, I just want to see whether areas are affected based off of income. So not just median income, but where's there an inequality? So basically, where do you have some people making higher incomes versus people who are not making any income or unemployed or very low income? And so with this map, it shows that pretty much outside of the city limits surrounding the golf course going down to San Martin, that's very high income inequality, as well as this area around Cochrane, where Walmart is located. So next, I looked at a series of pollution screens. So it's looking at this map shows a mixture of different items. So it shows compares ozone, particulate matter, lead risk, pesticides, groundwater hazards, hazardous wastes, and so on. And so what that really showed was that the highest area is this very low income area, and then followed by just outside the city limits, and then higher up along Cochrane Road and where Walmart's located. But that's not the only thing we are looking at. We're not just looking at pollution. We're looking at where are there locations to healthy food options, where is there grocery stores. So this map shows all the grocery stores within Morgan Hill, the larger grocery stores, and then where are they compared to residential areas within the city. And then we also looked at the opposite, unhealthy food options. So the fast food restaurants, convenience stores, liquor stores, and look at those in comparison to where people live. And then we also looked at a lot of series of health issues. So we looked at where asthma, cardiovascular disease. We looked at life expectancy, lots of different health outcomes within neighborhoods. This map just shows health insurance. So where there's a lack of health insurance, again, it's those 3 main low-income neighborhoods or census tracts. And then we also looked at child opportunity levels. So this looks at education, not only for the children, of the quality of education of the schools that they're going to, but also the education of their parents. Did their parents go to high school? Did they go to college? Did they went to post-secondary degrees? So it's looking at that early childhood education, elementary, and then secondary and post. It also looks at health, so it looks at the pollution rates within those areas, as well as toxic exposure, and then also health resources. And then this map shows the limited English households. So another thing that we looked at is what type of restrictions are there for people to engage with the city, to come to planning commission, city council meetings, or other outreach events that the city does. And so we looked at limited English households. So these are households that do not speak English, what the percentage are. And so again, it's that the main three ones are those ones that are the lowest income in our Hispanic communities. And then we looked at single parent households. So this is also one of the low income neighborhoods. And then we also looked at bus routes. How are people able to get to City Hall if they don't have a car, or if they have a disability? How can they access our services as well as attend meetings? And so, as everyone knows, public transit is limited within Morgan Hill, and so we just took a look at that as well. And so, wrapping up the report, which I'll release next week or a week and a half, we took a look at a lot of different indicators, and really it shows one census tract. This is our lowest income census tract, where it stuck out drastically compared to all the others, almost double compared to the second highest rated census tract. Census tract 13 and 14, those are our other low income communities. So we looked at lots of different things, as I mentioned, the maps I showed here, a lot of health indicators, and income, as well as housing conditions within those neighborhoods. So here's a map showing the same information. So this one shows that it has the 29 indicators, and then these two census tracts had 17 indicators of concerns. And so as part of this, what we're doing is we're going to focus our outreach within this census tract as well as these. And so in here, as part of our community outreach, we're targeting residents that live within those census tracts, within those neighborhoods. We'll be going out to affordable housing developments, to Spanish-speaking households. We've been trying to get in contact with them. It has been difficult just due to national issues going around with ICE and direction from them. So there's a lack of trust right now in the community, with our Hispanic community. So trying to reach out to them. So instead of just going directly to them, we're going to local community leaders, churches, nonprofits. We're also going to local businesses that have a significant Hispanic workforce, or where Hispanic residents frequent. So if you've seen me in the communities and within those areas, within the past 2 weeks, I've been going to a lot of businesses with a translator to help me talk with the community, talk with the business owners, to try to have us set up like a table, an event or something at their business, to help get feedback and information and build that trust. We're also going out to schools and parent groups. And so right now, we're really in our listening and learning phase. We're gathering community input through surveys, through just talking with them, with meetings. And so what that is just identifying the key issues. What are the issues that they're facing, or that is a major concern for them? And then from April through June, we'll be working on what we call our vision and engagement. So that right now we're collecting information. In a few months or a couple months, we'll be going back out and reporting back what did we hear, make sure that we got it correct, come up with some ideas for the community to discuss. And then throughout the end of summer, beginning of the school year, we'll be presenting our findings, basically have a draft plan, draft policies, and get feedback on those action items as well, before we have final recommendations to go to the Planning Commission and City Council. And so that completes my presentation. I don't have much time, or any time really, for questions. It's already 8:15. I have to go to another meeting. but I do have my email address. I'll put it in my chat for anyone who has questions. Feel free to contact me, or if you're a business owner, if you know a business owner within those areas, within that southern part of the city, um, I'll appreciate if you can let me know where we can do a table and event to do that outreach to our low income and Hispanic speaking community. Right. Thank you.
Okay, Adam, thank you very much for squeezing us in. I know you've got a busy day, and thanks for the presentation. And as he said, folks that have questions, please feel free to email him, and he'll get back to you. Thanks, Adam.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, right on top of each other, next we have Mayor Turner, who I believe is going to do a quick recap of last night's State of the City address.
Everyone, yes, I appreciate that, and for all who showed up last night, came out in the bad weather, I really appreciate you taking the time. It's a good crowd, and I thought it went well. And so I'll just talk about some of the themes. How's that? And then if folks want to ask questions, we can certainly do that. I appreciate it. I don't know if Sylvia Arenas or any of her team members are on, but I wanted to thank her for being there last night and participating. It looks like Alex Kennett was there. He's on today. He was there last night. And again, our team working with Open Space Authority to create that trail up El Toro is really going to be a great thing for our community. So I appreciate all that Alex is doing. And also John Varela, Director Varela from Valley Water, unable to make it last night, but we did have made some comments about really John's effort in helping us to get the financing that we need, what we needed in order to finish the Upper Yagas Creek flood control project. John was a strong voice at that meeting several months ago and really championed our cause here in South County in order to get that project complete. And I think it will begin in May and is scheduled to be completed in the next 2 to 3 years. And when complete, will basically eliminate the flooding that we've experienced over the years during these heavy rainfalls. So thank you to John and your effort as well on that. We also talked about some trees that I'm trying to get planted along the walking path. I think we're working out some details. The goal is to do about 100 to 150 trees, but I think we're starting with 20. And so we're gonna take that and get that done and hope to add to that as we go and really sort of beautify that walking trail from Watsonville Road that goes all the way out to Monterey, but between Watsonville and Middle is where we're going to start to plant those trees. I also talked there was a theme about unity and really talking about we are indeed better together, and that we recognize that everybody plays a role in the success of our community and the contributions that everybody makes to our community. And so talked about that. Really also talked about the sports recreation. I still believe we have a really good chance and opportunity to be identified as the Northern California premier destination for youth sports and recreation. And so we talked a little bit about that last night. And having created a 501c3, I'm with a group of individuals here in our community where we started a 501c3 in order to raise money to help start seeing some work done at the outdoor sports complex. We'll never raise 100 million, but we could raise several million and begin to see some work done out there. But one of our main goals now is this group, which is called the South County Youth Athletic Foundation. In talking about, I shared the story of having met 2 young boys over at the Park Place Apartments who approached me one day and said, "Hey, we need some fields here on our side of town." And they took me over and showed me the area. It's about 4¼ acres. And they were real adamant. They were, their deal was, "Hey, we will help you raise the money." And I said, "You guys realize we're talking about millions of dollars?" And they said, "Yeah, we'll help raise the money." So I just said, "Man, if you guys are in, I'm in." And so they were there last night. I got to introduce them. And I will tell you, since we've begun having conversations, in fact, I had those boys on a call with me on Monday morning. I was out at the fields talking to a potential sponsor to convert those fields to turf. And the whole deal is these 2 boys want to see turf fields because they say the grass fields, there's a lot of potholes, they get injured. So now they're having to play soccer at their at their apartment complex on the cement. These kids are getting banged up when they fall, and some have broken bones. And so we need to do this. And I'm really driven to see this happen. Since we started having those conversations, I've had a developer come forward and ask how they can help. Got potential sponsors. I've been introduced to the country's largest turf manufacturer. We're going to have some conversations with them, but we need to raise the money. I believe we can do it. It's several $1,000,000, and I think we can make this happen. And I'm so driven by these boys, their vision, and their whole deal is about how this can help the neighborhood there, and allow those kids to have access to a field that would allow, just to go out and play soccer. And so it was very exciting, and it was such an honor to have them there last night. So we're talking about that, and we also, Court of All recently opened 8 new pickleball courts. So I was having a conversation with Council Member Kelly Ramirez from Gilroy and the Mayor Greg Bozo of Gilroy, and we said, we should be focusing on doing a regional pickleball tournament here from Morgan Hill, San Martin, and Gilroy, and we all agreed this would be a good thing. So I announced that last night, and I got a text message from Greg Bozo, the Mayor of Gilroy, later in the evening. He said, man, that is blowing up. He's getting text messages. And so we do believe we can make something like that happen. And again, these sorts of efforts where we work together with our partners in San Martin and in Gilroy really elevate all of South County. We can all benefit at times like this through the visitors and the tourism that occurs in that kind of a situation. So I think we can really make some progress there. The other was that we talked about, and really, we've been working on this for 18 to 24 months, is our Healthy Morgan Hill initiative. I kicked that off last year at the State of the City, but prior to that, we had been working on this leading up to that event a year ago. Nick had come to me just after I got elected, Nick Gage, and we sat down and talked about this Blue Zones, which was new to me, but it's something a lot of other people are aware of. And we read the book. Nick and I both read the book and continued to have conversations. We both felt like, man, we can do this. The bones are here. We have what is really available to pull this together. Little did we know, with what we received last Saturday from the county health department, the health statistics in Morgan Hill are not good. So we were onto something early on that we had no idea could make a big difference for our community. And so as time went on, we began to add to our team and built out a committee of probably 6 or 8 people that have been together for over a year, 12 to 18 months, working to roll this out. We're going to be doing that on May 10th. But this past Saturday, we did have a community meeting where one of the individuals from the county health showed up and just kind of laid out the statistics. I don't have my notes in front of me, but in certain areas where I think we lead the county in cancer deaths, we're third when it comes to Nick, help me with that. There was another area where we performed poorly, second or third only to Gilroy and Santa Clara in, was it Alzheimer's?
And I want to say it's Alzheimer's at this point.
Yeah,
There's 3 or 4
that,
leading categories that were unfortunately on the wrong side of the scale. Correct.
Right. Along with, there's obesity concerns, there's diabetes concerns. And so this Healthy Morgan Hill initiative, not that we can force anything onto anyone, but what we can do and what our goal is as a committee is to really provide the options and opportunities to our community members so that they have access to these options and can begin to, however they want to go about changing things, their health lifestyle with better food or more exercise. And that exercise really doesn't have to be at the gym. It can be. They can go out and join pickleball. They can do that, or they can find ways to walking paths, bike paths within their own homes, talking about how they can just do their own gardening, but just more natural movement that can help contribute to their health benefit. So we talked about that last night. We also talked about, I wanted to, and it's a difficult, it's, when you start talking numbers, if you don't have charts up, it's hard for people to grasp hold of that. And even the presenter can be a little confused. And I hope I wasn't last night when it came to the Hotel Mohi tax incentive. And what we talked about was just real simple, that there's a lot of confusion and I think a lot of intentional misinformation by some to try to indicate that the city of Morgan Hill has cut a check to Hotel Mohi for $10 million. That's an absolute lie. That's a false, misleading statement. This tax incentive is really designed to help motivate and help to get Hotel Mohi completed. But what it talks about is $282,000. That's the number we want to talk about. that Hotel Mohi has to raise $282,000 in TOT tax. Remember, TOT tax in Morgan Hill is 11%, and all the TOT tax goes directly to Morgan Hill. It's unlike sales tax and property tax, where we only get a portion of that. When it comes to TOT tax, we get it all. So the more hotel rooms that we're able to rent out, the better off the city is as far as revenue is concerned. So the agreement with Mohi is that they have to first raise $282,000 in TOT tax that comes to the city. So if in their first year of operation, they raise $283,000, the city gets $282,000 and we write a check back to them for $1,000. So every year that $282,000 goes up by 3%. So year 2, it's approximately $290,000. In year 3, it's approximately $300,000. And that's the benchmark they have to meet each year before we cut a check back to them. Hey, if they perform so well that they end up getting 6 or 10 million, good for them, because that means we have gotten a lot of money, and it means it's been a real blessing to our community because they're bringing in a lot of people. But here's what it looks like. If they rent out 40 rooms a night, which is more than half of the rooms that they'll have available, if they rent out 40 rooms a night for the entire year at $400 per night, it will take them more than 5 months to pay us the $282,000. If they rent out rooms for $300, it'll take them over 7 months to meet that $282,000 benchmark. So I hope that helps people understand. We've not cut a check. We're not going to cut a check. We're going to be rebating them money, but at first the money comes to us, and everything over the $282,000, then there's a rebate. And that's a 15-year agreement. Once they hit $6 million, if they get to that number, once they hit that, then that rebate amount is reduced by 50%. So I think it's a good deal. The majority of the council voted to approve that last year. It's a good deal. It's going to be beneficial, not only for Mohi Hotel, but it is going to be beneficial for our city. In our budgeting, we really only budgeted $200,000 as far as the TOT tax revenue from Hotel Mohi. And so this is an additional $82,000 with an increase every year on top of that. So we think it's a good deal. I hope that people understood that, and I hope that those who are intentionally trying to mislead the public will cease in doing so. It doesn't do anybody any good. So, and if there's questions about that, happy to answer any questions, or at least turn that over to maybe to Brittany and Matt to clean up my mess. We also talked about, there's some great things happening for us in the area of restaurant. I really think that we are becoming the culinary capital of Silicon Valley. Based on the research we do on weekend visitation, we see that people are coming from as far away as Monterey to the south and San Carlos to the north to spend time in our city. And they're coming to our restaurants, and they're participating in different activities. And of course, we have a lot of soccer tournaments that people are coming to. But we're checking these statistics based on Friday night activity, and this is what we're seeing. So we know people are coming to our town. This is a place to be, and they're enjoying our restaurants and other activities. Again, talked about Valley Water. I'll leave it at that because I know I have about 5 or 10 minutes here in case there are some questions that I can answer. Nick, is that, or I'm sorry, Steve, is that okay?
That's perfect. Yes. Okay. Questions for the mayor?
Mr. Mayor, John Burrell, I have a question for you.
Sure.
Will you be calling those new sports fields the Field of Dreams?
Yeah. John, I got to tell you, I'm so excited. I am so excited about this opportunity to fulfill
Sounds wonderful.
vision for these two boys who really, in a very selfless manner, are wanting to do this for their neighborhood. It is really the Field of Dreams right now, but we're going to turn that into the fields of reality.
Whatever we can do to help, we would like to help as well.
Well, John, what's great about that, and here's where I would look to, is that we would be converting that 4 1/4 acres from grass to turf, which would eliminate a lot of
water.
And I think Valley Water does have some programs that may be helpful.
Yes, we'll talk about that.
Okay, excellent. Thank you, John.
Absolutely.
I see Kathy has her hand up.
Yeah, Mayor Turner, I have a question on the restaurants, since you were talking about the success of them. I know that we have heard from some of the employees that their hours are being cut so that where they had maybe full-time opportunities, they don't anymore. Is there some concerted effort by the city to try and encourage the businesses to continue to have those full-time employees, because I know that we see wait staff at 2 or 3 different restaurants 2 or 3 different times because they don't have enough hours. And so it doesn't help the, ironically, we're talking about different areas of the city that have some higher rates of lower income. It doesn't help to have our wait staff have to get 2 to 3 jobs just to earn a living here. So is there something the city is doing to help encourage the employers of those restaurants to reach out and have full-time work for those wait staff?
Yeah, thank you, Kathy. I appreciate that. I see that same thing. I see folks at different restaurants and some of the hardest working individuals around. And so yeah, the again, when I talked about the success of our restaurants, I really was talking about the fact that we are seeing a greater attraction to our community to come to these restaurants, and I think becoming that culinary capital through these different food events and our restaurants. But you're right. I would think, and probably Nick can speak to this as someone who is owner of a restaurant. These things ebb and flow, and I think in January and February in particular tend to be down months when it comes to restaurants. But I think there are some struggles. What we're doing as a city really is now trying to promote greater tourism, and I think we're seeing some results in that we are getting people coming from different areas. We can't necessarily say to a private employer what they could or should do with regards to employment or employee matters, as long as they're not, again, unless it's matters that are unethical or illegal. But encouraging them to hire staff and to have staff on for more hours. What we can do is by promoting our community and getting more people to come to our community and engage and at our restaurants and other activities.
Thank you, Kathy. Hey, Kathy, the one thing you might do is email Adam, because his initiatives on lower income areas in the city and trying to change that a bit could be right up the alley for that question. Nick, I think you had your hand up.
Yeah, first, I mean, I can add, from a restaurant perspective, you're right. Seasonality is an issue that has to be smoothed out over the course of a year. January and February are typically slower months, for those restaurateurs, just because of weather conditions. But it's all about volume and capacity, and I know that every restaurant owner is doing the best we can to be able to maintain hours and keep the doors open at the same time. So it's a struggle usually for the first 3 months of the year because of weather conditions, but hopefully as spring starts to hit, we'll get more volume within each one of the restaurants, and that'll be able to kind of secure the hours for all the employee base. But it's an ongoing challenge, and I know that every restaurant owner that I've spoke to is doing the best that they can to maintain, obviously, the hours for the whole team. I do have a question. Last night you also talked about the public art ordinance, and really kind of thrilled to see that in effect over the past year at the city council. Can you give us a little bit more insight on that, Mark? When do we expect to see some of the funds flow start to come through the city? And because I think it's going to be a wonderful addition as it relates to the vibrancy of our city as a whole, seeing public art now spread across the entire footprint of Morgan Hill.
Yeah, thank you, Nick. Yeah, again, the majority of the council last year in October did approve this public art funding mechanism. It's an ordinance now that we will be implementing a 1% fee on all development, both residential and commercial, all new development in our community. And so the option that the builder has, whether commercial or residential, is to implement a public art within their project, which is available to the public, even if it's a residential development. And so that did pass. We're excited about that. It's going to raise. It's hard to say how much money, but I know that the city did some work in identifying these types of ordinances in other cities, and it does bring in good funding. So those builders or those developers who choose not to do the public art within their development can pay an in lieu fee of up to 1%. I think based on the Matt. Yeah, you probably have that number.
Yeah, it's based on the cost of development, cost of construction. So it's 1% fee against that cost of construction. And the fee went into effect 30 days after the city council adopted it. So it's just at the very beginning of this year, and the city is starting to collect that fee. And I will say some developers are surprised by that fee. But in order to get their building permits, they will pay the fee.
And I'll say I've already received some emails since last night. I think some people are questioning that and indicating the concern. What's funny though is they're indicating concern that we're growing too fast, and why would you implement a fee? And my deal is, listen, we can't, especially in the area of residential construction, we have very little we can do to slow that down. And if they're going to come here and build, then they can contribute. In my opinion, they can also help contribute to the public art that we want to implement. So for those, as Matt just described, those who are not going to implement the public art within their project, pay an in lieu fee that the city can then use. And I say the city, but really it's a dedicated amount of money that the city can use for public art projects, which will enable us to do, whether it's murals or land art or metal works or whatever it's going to be. There's great opportunity for us to enhance our public art. And again, my deal is, let's be a destination for public art, where people will come to our town to see what we've got. And again, it helps with our economic vitality. And one of the other things, Nick, I wanted to mention, when we talked about restaurant, especially January, February timeframe, one of the things I'd really like to see our downtown association do, and I don't know if they really collect fees as membership for what they have going on, but I really feel strongly they could be doing some co-op advertising in the Mercury News and other locations. We've got places that people want to come to, and I would strongly encourage them to do something more in that area to advertise our restaurants during these slower months.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions for the mayor? If not, I'm going to juggle a little bit more. I heard John Varela say that he had to leave at 8:45.
I do.
John, do you have any updates from Valley Water?
Sure, I can give you some information. We recently passed our environmental impact report, which is a 1,000-page document, which we presented at a community meeting in Morgan Hill, which was well attended, by the way. We had about 100 people attend that meeting, about 50 in the room and about 40 people online. And this is a very important piece of work that we're doing. It's essential that the project stays on budget and stays online. I'm talking about Anderson Reservoir. We are completing the tunnel. That was the first major project. That was a state mandated project, or correction, it was a federal mandated project. The next phase will be the lowering of the dam. That'll happen within the next 2 years. The project is estimated to be completed by 2030. So that's the time that we're looking at on that. So I just want to keep everybody abreast of it, because that's our single largest reservoir. At the same time, we are working on our new dam, which is the Pacheco Reservoir off of Highway 152, which borders San Benito County and Santa Clara County. Yesterday, I was in a meeting with Contra Costa County, which is have stopped their expansion on their LVE dam, Los Vaqueros, and there's partners that we would engage with there, where we raised close to $100 million. And I have proposed that we transfer those funds to the Pacheco Reservoir. So many of our partners will be discussing that with Valley Water as to how they could be engaged in that as well. So that's a short update. And if you have any questions, I'll be happy to entertain your questions.
Any questions for John? Well, thank you, John. Thanks for the update. Next, Matt Mayhood, Economic Development for the City of Morgan Hill.
Hey, thanks, Rick. Good morning, everybody. It's good to see everybody. Great turnout today for this this meeting. It's great to see the interest in economic development. Brittany Sherman is here for City of Morgan Hill as well. She's our economic development coordinator. You guys all know Brittany. Yes, I stole her from the chamber 3 years ago. Smartest move I ever made. Sorry, Nick.
I know you owe us a big one here, man.
And the rest of the board. Hey, I try to give back. So just everybody, if you haven't noticed, Raising Cane's, because everybody loves chicken and we don't have enough chicken places in Morgan Hill yet. Raising Cane's has broken ground at the corner of Butterfield and Cochrane. They broke ground just in time for all the rain to come, and then so they were on the site and then they're off site, but they're actively going. The other thing is Chick-fil-A, you know, they're going gangbusters. They're targeting to open in, I think May is what I've been told and what I've said. Their new owner and operator was at the State of the City last night. This gentleman moved him and his family to Morgan Hill about a couple months ago. And Nick, let me make sure I introduce you to him if you haven't met him yet. I'm sure they'll join the chamber and be an active participant. Chick-fil-A is known for engaging actively in the community. So I think they really want to do the right thing by the community, and he wants to be the most welcoming Chick-fil-A in Santa Clara County, I believe is what he said. And he ripped that right off of Morgan Hills, being a welcoming community. So he's already engaged. I want to do just a brief update. I'm going to share my screen. Let's see. I think this will work. Yeah, that's great. So just a brief update. So folks, you guys can see that okay, I think. This is a map of Morgan Hill. And this main street right here, Cross Street, is done. Obviously, Highway 101. The economic development team is intending to work with the planning team over the course of the next several months, and then hopefully get to city council probably early summertime with some zoning updates. And what we're trying to do is, this area in blue is called the Condit Road PD. And it sits opposite our sports and recreation facilities, the outdoor sports park and the aquatic center. And there's a plan development document that controls what type of development can happen in that space. And it's a bit outdated. And we've hit the maximums in that space, and we have a little bit of vacancy and potentially some more vacancy happening there. So we intend to open up the PD and update it, and take off some of the restrictions and focus the PD to encourage additional sports and recreational uses, and uses that would support outdoor recreation and tourism. So there are some vacant lots there, and some existing hotels that we just want to encourage activities that would support and promote tourism in that space. So that's one activity. Within that area, I think if you haven't noticed, the Executive Inn is now a branded hotel. They have renovated all of their rooms. For many years, that hotel has been a problem for the city. A lot of code violations, a lot of issues. They're under new ownership and management. They have renovated all of their rooms. I know Krista and Brittany took a tour. Actually said, hey, they would actually maybe stay in those rooms. They haven't completed the outdoor renovations, but it is now branded as a Best Western brand hotel. And Brittany can probably chime in and tell me or tell us what exactly the name of the hotel is. Now, I don't know that off the top of my head.
It's a Sure Stay by Best Western.
Sure Stay by Best.
And if you haven't been over there, the transformation of the interior of the rooms is truly remarkable. I mean, it is very nice, very well done, very modern. So as soon as they have the additional funding to do the exterior, it's really going to be a huge upgrade for that hotel, and obviously strategically placed right across from the sports complex.
Thank you, Brittany. So we also lost Airstream within that PD. Vacant space, Airstream sales post-COVID were just plummeting. They consolidated operations around the country. But then I want to look at this red outlined area. This lot parcel is 965 San Pedro. It's on the backside of Home Depot. That parcel is zoned industrial commercial. So it's kind of a mixed zone. And for many years, the city has been pitching it as a potential auto dealer vehicle sales site, but it's actually not zoned properly. So I think we're either going to try to upzone the property or put an overlay, vehicle sales overlay, over the top of that property, similar to what we did on the North Trammell Crow property, because we just want to open up that opportunity, as it is, a prime freeway facing parcel. And then the last piece of updates actually, it's probably two more pieces. This yellow or orange highlighted area is our Morgan Hill. It's really our auto and hotel PD, existing PD that allows auto dealers vehicle sales, and it's limited. It's limited to a total of 4 potential dealers or vehicle sales. And we're getting some interest in that area. We now, we have Ford, we have the Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, Ram dealer. Family RV has moved in there. They're looking at splitting their lot, and then the Cardinale dealer who built the Dodge, Ram, Chrysler dealer, they can split their lot as well. So there's a potential to have about 5 vehicle sales dealers there. So we want to make sure we update the PD and allow those uses in advance of somebody coming in. Again, trying to be business friendly and making it easier to attract businesses to Morgan Hill. And then the last thing is the parcels down here. I didn't highlight these because we're kind of thinking about this. But these parcels are all, again, freeway facing, Tenant and 101. They're also, they're zoned commercial highway, but the general plan says they're zoned one way, and the zoning district says they're zoned another way. So we got to clean up the consistency there. So we'll do some outreach again to the chamber when we actually have firm proposals of what we're doing. But I just wanted to give you a heads up that that is happening in the coming months behind the scenes. Brittany will probably come back to you when we have more detail to share with you. But I wanted to give you a heads up, and I'll stop sharing. But thank you. And any other updates, Brittany, from Edie?
No, just prepping to attend the ICSC, which is the retail conference in Monterey. So we attend 2 every year. One usually in Monterey at the beginning of the year, which is kind of more Northern California focused with a lot of our peers that attend as well. And then one that's usually like San Diego or Palm Springs in the fall. So this will be our first one of the year. So just canvassing all of the shopping centers that we have for vacant space, and putting that all together, putting marketing pieces together, doing some outreach to potential retailers. We also make sure that we connect in with our local brokers and our local shopping center owners and some of our local retailers too. Like we'll connect with Chick-fil-A as even though they're here and they're breaking ground and moving forward, sometimes we get some additional information as we do these one-on-ones there with them. So looking to do that. The e-newsletter, the first e-newsletter for the year will come out at the end of March. And earlier this week, we hosted a downtown business and property owner update meeting. So I'll be kind of cleaning up that recording and popping it onto the Choose website if anybody's interested to see. We shared some good stats. Krista from Visit Morgan Hill was on there giving some of her Visa spend. So really good information as far as who's spending what, whether it's coming from inside our community or outside. I gave some updates on data as far as visitors and length of visits and high profile weekends that we've had so far. And then we gave an update. Heather, who is the new director of the Mushroom Mardi Gras, gave an update on Mushroom Mardi Gras and what that looks like this year. And then we had an update for the Eads Gallery and Vera Restaurant, as well as an update for Mohai Hotel and the Lux. So really, really good information. I think we had about 20 people on that, which is great. So I'm happy to, I can send you out the link, Nick, if you'd like, when we have that posted up there, and then you can share it with the group. And I think that's it.
And
Okay, thank you, Matt, and thank you, Brittany. Any
Yeah.
questions for them? I see Kathy has her hand up.
Yeah, I have just one question. Maybe you talked about it before, but what's happening with the old KFC site? We're talking about chicken.
Talking about chicken, the old fried chicken site. They're actively pursuing potential tenants there. Brittany and I have introduced, I don't know, half a dozen folks to them. It's very interesting. The ownership group is a 21 member family trust.
Wow.
So for them to make decisions is really interesting. Apparently, I'd like to be in the corner, observing what they're talking about. But we've had some proposals come to the city, some people shopping, some potential things, but no decision has been made. It's a prime site. There's no doubt. They're going to get a premium for the site. They've also looked at putting vehicle chargers on the parking lot as well, to make it more attractive for people coming up the highway. And there's some grants out there that would support them doing that. So that's kind of what's happening, Kathy. Great question, though. We're all curious to see what happens there. I'm betting it's going to be another chicken place. I'm just, I literally, we have, there's a pool in the city that, you know, so, but we can't control what's going to go there. Ideally, we're trying to get Dutch Brothers to go there, but just the queue isn't long enough. Getting in and out isn't good enough. We pitched a couple other places, but we'll see what happens. Thanks for the question, though.
Okay, any other questions for economic development from the city? I guess one thing, Matt, any update on Butterfield 5 or Cochrane Tech?
Yes, they're still there. Yeah. Well, here's what I'll say is, look, very start of the year, we were seeing some interest. We were, talking to the brokers. They were doing some tours. But candidly, right now, there's a lot of uncertainty on economic conditions for business. You've seen what's happened to the NASDAQ. Our economy in Silicon Valley is driven by tech. And there's a lot of uncertainty happening with global trade and tariffs and stock markets. Some of our largest businesses that we were seeing expanding and taking an interest in Morgan Hill, their stocks are down 10, 15, 20% in the last 30 days. And that will really put a hold on things. So, we're hoping for more economic stability and then decisions can be made.
Okay, any other questions for Matt or Brittany? If not, thank you very much, both of you. So one thing I usually do at the very beginning of this meeting is go around the table and have people, I think Krista just put up her hand. Krista, do you have a question?
No, just applauding. Thank you for the report.
Okay. So let's go around the table real quick and have people introduce themselves, what organization they're with, etc. And let's start with Kathy Napoli.
Okay, I have quite a few. Gavilan Community College trustee, member of AAUW, Kiwanis, and Ancestral Roots and Tradicion Society. And I won't name the rest. I'm a little busy.
Sounds like you're busy. Nick.
Good morning, everybody. And yeah, it's really nice to see such a large crowd. And I know we've got Supervisor Arenas coming on deck right after this as well. But Chamber of Commerce and the small business owner here in Morgan Hill, longtime resident.
Alex.
Hey, everybody. Alex, local realtor and OSA representative, and not much to report on either side. We have a new changes in our board. We had one board member pass, another board member leaving to go out of state. And so that's going to be some changes, but otherwise staff in general is we're pursuing that forever, something I've been working on for over 25 years is that loop trail up on the hill there behind us. So keep your fingers crossed.
We're sending good karma your way, Alex.
Great.
I need all I can get.
Okay, Joe. Joe, you want to introduce yourself real quick?
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yeah, we got you.
Sorry. Joe Muller, resident and member of the Planning Commission.
Marby.
Hi, good morning, everyone. I'm Marby Lee, local realtor with Real Brokerage.
Brian.
Brian Sullivan, board member of the Community Law Enforcement Foundation and a long-term resident of Morgan Hill.
Brittany, we've already heard from you today. Malia. If you're there. We'll continue.
You're on mute, Malia.
Okay, we'll continue on. Krista.
Good morning, Krista Rupp, Executive Director of Visit Morgan Hill.
Victor.
Hey folks, good morning. Victor Gomez with Pinnacle Strategy, local land use and government affairs consultant.
Jeffrey Burke. Jeffrey, you're on mute if you're trying to. Okay, let's move on to Ken.
Hi, good morning. Ken Meager, Pinnacle Bank, also Rotarian and chicken eater.
Oh,
Hey, Rick, I'm going to chime in real quick. Hi, this is Malia. Sorry, my fingers weren't working for some reason. Morgan Hill Chamber of Commerce and Santa Clara County Veterans Commission. Good morning, everyone.
good morning. Paul.
Hi, good morning. Paul with Cinelux Theaters. We've been here since 2003 and are just completing a complete renovation in the theater, including recliner seats. So we hope to see everybody.
And those seats are something else. I've been in them.
Mm-hmm.
Great, thank you.
Kendra.
Morning, everyone. Kendra Fugino O'Donohue, founder and executive director of Envision Your Pathway. We support youth in a workforce development program and also proud resident and parent of students in Morgan Hill.
Thank you. Gail.
Oh, hi. This is Gail Hayden. I'm here with my husband, Doug. We run the farmers market in Morgan Hill every
Welcome.
Saturday, 9 a.m. to 1 p.m.
And Zane.
Oh, we're just doing introductions. I'm Zane. I run a business in Gilroy, California. Yeah, sorry. I didn't know we were doing intro. Sorry.
Well, thank you. Doug Hayden.
Hi, Doug Hayden here. I'm also with the Morgan Hill Farmers Market and like to say that's the best dressed mayor I've ever seen.
Thank you, Doug. Heather.
Hi, I'm Heather Gallegos with Morgan Hill Wine Trolley. Good morning, everybody.
Good morning. Steve Tate. Steve, you're muted if you're trying to talk. Okay, well, I think Sylvia Arenas just joined us.
Mm-hmm.
If that's the case, let's stop here and have her do her presentation on 2025 priorities. Sylvia, are you there?
Looks like Sylvia is on Zoom, but she's muted right now.
Let me ping her right now, Rick. Hi, Victoria Lam, Policy Aide for Supervisor Arenas. Thanks for having the supervisor. I know she's really looking forward to speaking with you all.
Absolutely, and we're excited to hear from her. Let's quickly get to the other folks. I think Armando. No, and Celine.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Celine Doherty from the Santa Clara County Fairgrounds Management Corporation. I'm the co-interim director of the Fairgrounds. We'd like to welcome you to this year's annual county fair, which will run from Wednesday, July 30th through Sunday, August 3rd. We welcome all of your participation, and if you're interested in participating, please reach out and let us know. We also are an event center, so if you guys are looking to have your events, reach out. We have lots of space for those opportunities.
Great, thank you. So I don't know, Sylvia was scheduled for a little bit later. Maybe we'll go ahead and go around the table and get some updates. When she's ready, we're going to break in and just have her make her presentation. In the meantime, Joe, anything from the Planning Commission?
The last meeting we did, the tentative map for an infill residential project in some land near Trader Joe's. And the upcoming meeting, I believe we're going to have the annual general plan and housing update, which will be chock full of information on how we're making progress on the general plan and housing.
Great, thank you. Kathy, you want to make an update for your many hats?
Okay, I'll give you a recent one for Gavilan and Highway 25. We attended the presentation last night at Gavilan for from VTA and Caltrans because they're going to be starting the phase 1 work on revamping that interchange that we know has been a safety hazard for many, many, many years. And we talked about the fact that that current interchange was supposed to be temporary, and it was first done in '88, so it needs some significant improvements. And there will be road closings at Santa Teresa and Mesa that will have to have detours rerouted, so that's significant. And they anticipate about a 3-year period for the completion. And it's going to be, I think, a difficult impact for those 3 years, but it's really needed because that is a safety issue now when traffic backs up onto 101 lanes coming and going off that 25 on-ramp. And for some of you who don't know, we did open our new campus in Hollister, had a ribbon cutting in November, and has been very, very successful and welcomed by the community. So that will impact traffic patterns now. There won't be so many because we have about 800 students, almost 900 students attending that campus now. And you are all welcome to visit. It's beautiful. And we're upgrading our campus in Gilroy now with our Measure X funds. And so you will see a lot of development there too. And we're already well on our way to building our library and youth center resource building. And it's going to have included administration. So a lot of changes for Gavilan. And all the other events, we have the Wildflower Run for AAUW. And we have our senior breakfast coming up for seniors through Kiwanis. I think that's enough. I don't want to go on and on, but those are some of the key events happening.
Well, thank you, Kathy. Krista, Visit Morgan Hill. Any updates for us?
Sure. Thank you for the opportunity. As Brittany mentioned, we did provide some data, some spending data for Morgan Hill. We subscribe to a Visa Insights subscription that gives us spending data in the city. And we had some good figures for 2024. Restaurants and dining is a big piece of the pie at 98.8 million. And that is representing 3.4% year over year. So good growth there. The spending was also 48% non-Morgan Hill card holders. So that's pretty significant chunk. We're happy to see that. Retail was a little bit down year over year, which I think aligns with some of the other economic trends we're seeing. But we did see quite a boost in hotel spending, which is great. It means we're headed in the right direction for tourism. And I'll just leave it there.
Thank you, Krista. I noticed Sylvia has joined us. Let's go ahead and jump to her and have a discussion about 2025 priorities.
Good morning, everyone. I was having a little bit of trouble because I do drop off this morning. So I was listening to a portion of the meeting as I was coming back from dropping off my kids. I have 2 of them, a 10-year-old and a 16-year-old. So that means high school and elementary, which are not side to side. So I apologize about that. A good morning to all of you. It's so wonderful to be here. I hope to return more often and continue to give you an update. And so what I'm going to go into is a bit of our priorities. But let me take a step back. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Sylvia Arenas. I'm your District 1 supervisor at our county board. And so I represent South San Jose, Evergreen, which is where I live. I've been living here for about 22 years. Grew up in the east side of San Jose. I'm born and raised in San Jose. And I represent, of course, Morgan Hill, San Martin, and Gilroy, and of course, all the unincorporated areas that are part of that. So I'm really, really fortunate to just be in this county representing the south part of our county. And I take great pride in making sure that I advocate, I fight, I sometimes battle with my colleagues to make sure that our district begins to receive the kinds of attention and services and support that we might have not received in the past. And so we have to make some wrongs right. And so that means sometimes asking for a little bit more for South County. And I'll tell you a little bit about what that means. I think you have seen some grants come in that you hadn't seen before. And I'm really excited that we are in our grant season leading up to our next budget. And we call that our inventory items. I know it's not very descriptive. It's not very, I don't know if we do that so that we can hide because we don't have that much money. But let me tell you, they wanted to cut all of our resources that we provide for district specific needs. That means our money was going to be cut into half. And as much as I want to agree with conserving, which is part of our strategies overall for our budget, is conserving, taking a look at some efficiencies, the effectiveness of our programs, and either, and I heard earlier, there's some opportunity. I think there's some opportunities to increase fees. People may not like them, but it's an adjustment so that we don't lose staff, we don't lose employees that do a lot of our vital support services. And so we've been looking at efficiencies within our own agency. The planning department has done that for us. I was the chair of our housing, land use, environment, transportation committee for the last 2 years. And so those are the kinds of things that we were doing. Overall, that's the strategy for our whole organization, is to take a look at efficiencies, the effectiveness of programs, reduce any ineffective things that we are doing, all in an effort to not lose any of our employees. Now we're going to get to a point where we might have to do that. I don't look forward to that. But this last mid-year budget, we had to close, and we've been closing a 40 million, we're not there yet, but a 40 million deficit. And part of that effort was done with our employees, applying for grants, making things a lot easier, like having a QR code when we send a bill so that it facilitates payment, right? So there's a lot of really wonderful stuff that I have strategies and ideas that actually come from our employees. Okay, so that's kind of in the background. That's what we've been doing. So we've been accepting a lot of proposals from our administration, from our employees, in an effort to make sure that we continue to provide the safety net services that I know are really important for all of us. And what guides us is our overall priorities, which I'm going to share. There's 5 critical policy priorities. I'm going to be a little bit just run through these a little bit quickly, but this is what holds all of us together. This is our North Star for all of our board, and then I'll talk a little bit about the ones that are specific to District 1. And so we all agreed that we were going to prioritize expanding behavioral and medical care access and quality. You've seen some of that in our own district with the expansion of, and I'm going to call it the DePaul Center, but now it's our Morgan Hill VHC site. And we also agreed that we were going to increase access to housing, to strengthen community safety and reform criminal justice, enhance support for children and families, and promote sustainability, adapt to climate change, and protect natural resources. And so the last one is really important for all of us, especially for for those who love, we have the largest, geographically the largest district in this county, which means we have a lot of open space, which also means that we become a target for expansion, we become a target for development. And those are all really wonderful things. And we welcome a lot of really wonderful ideas. I heard some really great ones from Matt Mayhood earlier today. And making the most of the space that we have, but also protecting what makes South County really unique. And that's part of the agricultural land, that the last land that we have in this county. We are so fortunate to actually have that. And because of that, I've made sure that some of what I'm working on relates to our agricultural land. We had a bill that was carried by Assemblymember Gail Pellerin and approved by our governor last year. And this is to densify agriculture worker housing in a way that hasn't been done before, especially on county land. So that's going to be really different, and we're hoping to really carry that out. And with your partnership, to find folks who are interested, invested in doing something like this. Specifically to my district, or to our district, I say, is our 5 priorities. And I really always begin with children and families. I haven't changed since I was a school board member for Evergreen School Board. I was also a council member for the city of San Jose for many years. And I shifted the way that we think about how we provide services to our residents to make sure that we include children and families. I'm also making sure that our community and economic development is always present. As a council member, I established a business association off of Tully. That was really important to me because I know that transportation infrastructure construction destabilizes small businesses. And of course, we're going to have the last leg of light rail to Eastridge Mall in my district. And so I wanted to make sure that we don't destabilize, like I said, some of our small businesses. So then I also followed up the following year with grants for that business association before I left, and then picked it back up. And actually I'm expanding that business association in my district to cover more areas. And then my next step is also to provide more grants. I'm happy to work with all of you to figure what that could look like for Morgan Hill. Like I said, we have our inventory items coming up. And so if you have ideas, if, the Downtown Business Association I would love to connect with all of you to figure out what is it that you are hoping to do this upcoming year to and see how we can really leverage each other's resources and take advantage of the inventory items. Okay, so the third item is violence prevention programs. I've been working with South County Youth Task Force since we began. I made sure that they had an analyst that they needed, and by providing this analyst, now they are able to have more resources so that they can apply for grants, manage those grants, show the effectiveness of the programming and the organizing that they've been doing for a really long time, long before I came around. And so that they can continue to be sustainable for the future. And so that was really important to me. We also provided a referral, which means a memo that I wrote to take a look at the structure of the staffing to ensure that that was the most effective, that we're being responsive to our community, and to see if there's any possibilities of continuing to support budget-wise with our South County Youth Task Force, because I want to make sure that we are not the area that has the highest number of referrals for our juvenile justice system, which unfortunately we are. And so in order to cut that school to prison pipeline, this is an effort to support our kiddos. We've all gone through something really tragic, which isolated all of us. And as adults, we have a hard time. So I can't imagine how our youth are dealing with isolation from the pandemic and the overall after shocks, if you will, of it. The next thing is our equity-based reforms. And when we talk about equity, I always talk about our South County because we haven't had a lot of resources and a lot of budget items coming our way, it begs the question, when will our turn be to get that kind of attention? And so I've been a squeaky wheel about that. And that is based on our equity principle that those who've been underserved come first. And let me just talk a little bit of, about the Office of Economic Development that I asked to be established last year in December. And I want to thank Nick. I want to thank the organization and all of you who sent me a letter of support to ensure that this was established. A lot of folks may think, well, how does that make sense when we're trying to, we first started off this conversation by saying, you know, you're reducing, you're trying to find efficiencies. But when times get really hard, we have to make sure that we invest in our community in a meaningful way. And I thought this would be the most meaningful for South County, to be able to support all of you with the agritourism ideas and work that you are all have already started. So I'm looking really forward to establishing an advisory council and love to invite any of you who are interested, especially those who are in the agritourism field, to join me in doing this so that we can ensure that we provide our feedback to our county executive and I can ask for budget items. The other item that I funded actually was a open streets program, and that is what is known here in San Jose as Viva Calles. And Viva Calles basically, I know it's open streets, but we close the streets down. We close the streets down so that everybody can bike, walk, skate, whatever it is that they want to do, wheel around. And that has shown throughout many different countries to be an economic driver, because what we do is we get into our cars, we drive past small businesses, we don't look at the dry cleaners that's right next to the big chain store, because we usually just walk into the big chain store. And so when we get a chance to get off our cars and enjoy our neighborhood in a more meaningful way, that really it increases sales and foot traffic for small businesses. And so I'm looking forward for that to happen, not only in Morgan Hill, but also in Gilroy. And so I'm hoping to, I've already funded it for this year. I hope that we can see it. Well, I funded it last year. And then I'm hoping to fund it once again this year and make it something that is annual. And I'm happy to talk with those folks who have festivals on an annual basis to see if there's any way we can coalesce together. I really hope that it's in an area that is full of small businesses, because that's my intention, to support our small businesses. Let's see, we have lots of other really wonderful things that we've been doing, but let me just tell you some of those other grants that I've funded that are Morgan Hill specific, and that was to the Edward Boss Prado Foundation. I funded the St. Vincent de Paul Society for rental assistance and rapid rehousing. We also gave just a little bit of money, but some money to Morgan Hill Parks and Rec for the Corazon Care Campus. We also funded Open Space Allies for Open Streets, our South County Compassion Center at St. Joseph's to support a merger. And I know that there's a couple of more, but I just, because I know that I've gone over my time, I will wrap it up by just saying, I'm really excited to be here. I'm excited about establishing new opportunities and working with you in a way that maybe I haven't had a chance to work with you before. Like I said, we have grants within our office that I'd love to see how we can leverage each other's resources. I'm really eager to do that work with all of you who are already doing it. And Nick, I know that you're taking Blue Zones on the road and giving it a twist that is only just unique to Morgan Hill, and I appreciate it. I'm happy to be supportive in that aspect as well. And so thank you for inviting me, and I know that there's folks who made it possible for me to be here, and I just wanted to thank you and your staff for getting me here.
Well, thank you for joining us, Sylvia. Questions for Sylvia? I think Nick's got his hand up.
No, good morning, Supervisor Reason. Thank you. It's an honor to have you on board this morning at our Economic Development Committee, and we'll certainly have you back as well for sure. I know that Rick and Larry are excited to see you on the agenda this morning, so this is wonderful. A few things. I think I'm going to steal one of your phrases: efficiency and effectiveness. I love the connection points on that area, and with budgets being tight all around the board is obviously something that we have to keep a very close line of sight on. But yeah, let's continue to work collaboratively together. There's several things that you talked about that obviously the Chamber of Commerce would be happy to help understand at a deeper level, as well as then support. Thank you for mentioning the Office of Economic Development. We were very happy to be able to endorse that. It's a big area for us, agritourism, as you know very well, and I think it'll be a strong force for us to have, not only an office at the county level, but obviously the data analytic teams, the resources that are around that, I think will allow us to grow here in Morgan Hill. So thank you. And then certainly we'll also stay very connected with you on the grants and I guess the inventory items. That is the grants are just a wonderful gift for many of our operations, our businesses, and our policy developments on being able to provide that efficiency and effectiveness based on the grant itself. So I will definitely set some time with your team to kind of take a look at the catalog and how we can ingrain some opportunities for grants here in Morgan Hill. And of course, the Chamber of Commerce will spread that information out to our community as well. So I just wanted to say thank you first for being a part of today's meeting. We look forward to having more status reports, and we'll continue to work very closely from a Chamber of Commerce perspective with you and your office as we start to look at reinventing ourselves for 2025 and beyond. So thank you for being here this morning.
Thank you, Nick. Any other questions? No?
Yeah.
Well, Sylvia, thank you very much for joining us today. We got one. Kathy.
So, sorry, I was trying to find my little icon here. It's a little hard to find. Two things they're really not questions, or just comments. Thank you, Supervisor Arenas, for supporting the Youth Mariachi concert. We will be celebrating our 6th annual one at Britain in September 27th. And so thank you for supporting that. But more importantly, talking about small businesses and how you've helped establish these business associations. Thank you for supporting that grant to have an organic farm in Morgan Hill. And I think that really helps say that you are committed to small business, and the farmers market representative was here, so I'm sure she appreciates that too. So thank you for supporting all the small businesses that you do, because I went to Washington, D.C. in 1990, and one of the things that most people forget is that about 75% of all businesses are small businesses with 10 or less employees. So we really are the economic engine of the country. So thank you again for doing that.
Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you, Kathy, for continuing to do the really wonderful work that you're doing.
Nick?
Yeah, and just if I'm wondering if you can maybe speak to, I think Mayor Turner brought it up last night regarding some of the CAL FIRE transitions. I just received a couple text messages from a few of our attendees. I'm wondering if you can kind of speak to it from a county perspective. I know that you're very involved in that conversation. It would be something I think really meaningful for the team to hear.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I began the conversation with saying that we are looking as an organization to effectiveness and efficiencies within our departments. And this is one of the proposals that administration came back with. And that is a restructure of the South County Fire District. And so we have 4 fire districts in this county. They're very separate from our county. They don't receive any general fund. They're supposed to be sustainable on their own, just the way that some of our medical, the extensions of our medical providers are. And sometimes people think that we're one and the same, right? But we're not. And so last year, I asked my colleagues for some fund from our general fund because what has been happening is that the tax base for South County has stayed the same. And it's, it's a good thing because a lot of us are homeowners, and we've been homeowners for a really long time, and Prop 13 protects our property taxes from being increased more than 2% every cycle. And so that also prevents us from gathering more revenue. And at the same time, what has been happening is the cost of living has just been going up. And so when the money that is coming in, it stays here, but the costs are coming up, well, that's insolvency, right? If a business did that, they would go bankrupt. They would have to close. And so what I had to do the first year that I came in, and certainly last year, is to ask to not borrow, but really to take from our general fund, which we're not supposed to do, and give to the South County Fire District. Last year, we covered the repair to Cal Fire's roof, and partly to purchase of an engine. These are things that the fire district should be able to do on their own, and every other fire district does that for themselves. I can't continue to do that because my colleagues are going to eventually say, no, we're coming into a really difficult time. And so administration presented this option about doing this restructure. And the restructure basically is in the same way that you would think about a big business who can take on a smaller business and merge with them and not maybe and not lose the service that business is providing in that specific area, so that those residents don't lose access to that business, right? And a bigger business might take it over because the overhead is shared, a lot of the costs are shared, is streamlined in the same way. This is the same thing. So Santa Clara Central County Fire District, and they call it the County Fire District, but it doesn't mean that it's owned by the county at all. It's a separate fire district on its own. They are big enough for us to be able to I'm sorry, I just got a notice on my computer saying we're going to restart, and I'm like, no, not now. Anyways, so it's at 9:41. It's going to restart automatically. My organization just imposes those things. So anyway, so what we did as a board is take a look at, how does the fire district for South County become solvent? And there's a couple of options. I know that our county executive has been working on this for the last 12 years. And so there's a couple of things, I think, that options that they were provided in the past, and that is to impose a fee for when there is a response, so that there's some level of reimbursement and the revenue grows, or to have a tax measure go out specifically for those people who are in unincorporated areas, because this is where our response is, right, for the unincorporated areas. And as you saw last year for Gilroy, people don't have the appetite to tax themselves. Times are really hard. And so the only other option that we have is, how do we make this continue to work? So it is no reflection on CAL FIRE. CAL FIRE continues to have a role in our area. Obviously, they're the provider of fire service response and EMT response for Morgan Hill. And as a statewide organization, they have a mandate and obligation to respond to wildfires. Irregardless of whether we have a contract, you have a contract, anybody has a contract, they need to respond to wildfires. That's their mandate. Now, what they do in addition to that is sometimes collectively pull together some contracts like they do for the city of Morgan Hill, and what they were doing for South County Fire District. But we were bailing them out. And that couldn't continue to happen unless something changed. And this is the reason for that restructure. It's not because it was bad performance. This is really what it comes down to is insolvency. They are insolvent. Their cost for their folks, even though they are very affordable, is still it's still higher than the tax base is. And that tax base is not going to change unless people want to tax themselves more to cover the South County Fire District, which wasn't what I believe residents wanted to do. Anyway, so that's the reason why there's that restructure.
I appreciate the insights and obviously the discussions that took place to get us to this level. And I think as Mayor Turner spoke last night, for our local setting here in Morgan Hill, our contract with CAL FIRE still remains in place. As I understand it, I think we're in year 2 of a 5-year agreement. So it's just helpful for the community to understand, what is happening at a high level as relates and how this is still down to our local setting. So thank you for that information.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions for our supervisor? I know we've hit 9:30, which usually we try and end at that time.
Yes.
Well, again, Supervisor Arenas, thank you very much for joining us today. We hope and look forward to seeing you in the future. And for everybody who attended and hung in there, again, thank you for attending. And we will see you next month, same time, same place.
Thank you. Thank you, guys.